Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we are talking with Parker, a friend of the channel, somebody who's, I don't know how long you've been watching the channel, but how are you doing, Parker?
I don't know how long I've been watching the channel either, admittedly. I don't even remember the first video, but yeah, I've been doing great. Just happy to be here. So happy. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is like been wanting something like this for so long. So
Well,
it's
I'm
cool.
glad I'm glad to finally talk to you. And I mean, like that's the cool thing is like obviously on this whole thing that we're doing here, if anyone is not familiar with this film, what the film journey is, usually I talk to other content creators most of the time for what their film journey is with from early memories all the way up to what they're doing now. But I also get the opportunity to talk to people who are in the community who are just watching videos and doing other stuff. And I mean, I love it. Like I love this engagement. So I'm glad to finally meet you.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't like because I think one of the film journeys where you said you would also like accept to do film journeys with like commenters and fans. Like it's like first it's one of those things where you're like, I don't actually, does he like really mean that? I don't actually know. But then I just decided I was like, screw it. What could go wrong? Worst he could do is say no. So I just asked in the comment and here we are now. I'm like,
Yeah,
yes.
it's great. Yeah, no, I definitely it's I mean busy as busy as we all are. That's the thing is like at least if it's the thing is like we put out this content, a lot of the people who make videos, but also people who watch it, that they're spending time, and that's the important thing to me. Just like, hey, you're listening somehow, and like it's just weird, it's surreal to me to know that people like go to your videos and stuff. You're like, hey, I actually want to hear what this person has to say. I'm like, what? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a refreshing thing. So, but so we're gonna do this film journey, and if, like I said, if anyone doesn't know what this is, usually we're just gonna go through our viewers' film journey, and we're gonna talk about all the other things in between. But first, let's talk about like what you've been currently watching. What have you been watching, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yesterday I actually watched, or not yesterday. Wait, today's Saturday, right? Yeah, today's Saturday. Sorry,
I don't know what.
uh,
Don't ask me.
a couple of days ago, I watched a Bullet Train, and that was pretty cool. I don't know if you've seen it yet, or it was really fun. They had like a cover of holding "I'm Need a Hero" in Japanese, and like my Shrek 2 brain went off because when I see it, that's what I associate. And I'm like,
Like
ooga,
that,
onions.
that's exactly. That's when I hear that song. That's what I think too.
And so that was like fun. It's just a fun action movie. It's not like anything crazy, but it was cool. I've been going through some of my boutiques because of the Criterion sale. I got I don't know the director's name because I'm not good with just the Japanese directors just off the cuff, but still walking, I think.
Oh,
And after
Kuya.
yeah, yeah. The same director that did Shoplifters.
Mm-hmm.
Um because I loved Shoplifters, so I wanted to get some of those. So I got Still Walking and I got Afterlife, which I liked Afterlife quite a bit more. I thought it was a really cool concept, really interesting exploration into the afterlife. I don't know if you've seen 9 Days. It's like a movie that
Oh,
came out last year.
yeah. I've been told to buy it, but I haven't bought it yet. But yes, good thing.
Apparently, that film was heavily inspired by Afterlife, and I could see
Okay.
it when watching it. And I love 9 Days, so I was like, heck yeah, I want to watch the origin. Um, I was told that they were almost kind of like cookie cutter of each other though, and I kind of agree with that, but kind of don't at the same time. It like takes the same initial thing,
Mm-hmm.
but like 9 Days, well, I guess I don't really think this is a spoiler because it's the basic concept, but 9 Days is interested in like bringing people into life and like deciding whether they're worthy of being born. And Afterlife is the opposite, where it's like they're worthy of moving on to some afterlife. They don't really explain what the beyond actually is, but they're like getting people ready for it or something. So
I'm sure there's
it's
also a big like cultural different like like
Yeah.
divide too, because I mean, they're that life and death are very different in each culture. So it's, but I mean, 9 days is that English or and
Yeah.
then
And then Afterlife is Japanese.
right
So yeah, I don't remember the year. I think it was like in the 90s or something. I don't know. I need to,
99,
I would need to look
late
at it.
90s. I
So,
also have that on the shelf. Haven't seen it yet though, but I'm very much
okay.
looking forward
I'd
to
recommend it because
it.
it's really darn good. Really
Yeah.
makes you think a little bit about what you're done with your life and stuff like that. So besides that, I also got an Arrow thing. I got Tale of Two Sisters, which was like, it gave me the heebie-jeebies. It was a little creepy, and but that was awesome. I love that. I need to watch more Korean films. I feel like I've been slacking on that, and I just I just love Asian cinema in general, really, whether it's like Chinese, Japanese, Taiwanese, like whatever. That's just very much my jam. So whenever I can get a chance to watch a good Asian film of any place, I love it. So
Well, those are good choices. I mean, I haven't seen them, but I know about all those releases. That's the other thing too, is like I feel like everyone has their own little thing that they're exploring, and like that's the cool thing. It's like, oh, well, you just talked about this. Now I want to go explore it, right? And that's
yeah.
eventually I'll get into those films. We were talking a little earlier before we were recording about how many movies we have unwatched, and
Yeah.
our numbers are drastically different.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Different
And
places.
different places. But it's great though too, is because we have all this opportunity to explore more, or add more to that or take away from it, and that's the cool thing about it all. So I like those current watches. Those are good.
I did too.
Now now the first question I usually like to ask, obviously, is the one that everyone kind of knows, but what is your earliest movie memory?
Okay, so I don't really have an early memory as far as like theater experiences, but I think I talked about this briefly in one of the weekly question things, but I obviously there's all like the animated films and stuff like that, but beyond that, I really wanted to watch Lord of the Rings and the movie 300, but my mom looked at those films at I mean I was like 8 or 9, and my mom looked at those films and she was like, "No, you can't watch those films. Those are too dark, too graphic, whatever." And I'm just like, I really want to watch them though. And so like my dad was like, one day, son, you'll come into the man cave and you'll be able to watch these really cool movies." And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. And so when the day finally came where I was able to watch it, I was just so excited. For me, it's like I internalized it as my mom didn't think I was like man enough or like macho enough, like whatever that means now. I don't know. I was a stupid kid, but like I was like, I really need to show her how mature I am and I can handle this movie, this gore or whatever. So when I finally got to watch it, I was so excited. And especially for like 300 with like all the men like greased in oil, the slow motion. I was like, oh, like this is like just what I needed to spike my testosterone levels. So like that was the first experience with movies that like really affected me on like a, I don't know, I guess a deep level of some kind, where I was like really like, yes, these movies are so freaking good. I know Lord of the Rings is like your favorite, so like yeah, I haven't, it hasn't stuck with me as much now, but like definitely when I was a kid, that was like my favorite thing in the whole wide world. I loved it so much. And beyond that, yeah, that was about it. I also watched a lot of Star Wars, and I would like LARP with it, and I would like
Nice.
I yeah, like whatever I would play a Star Wars movie, my parents would be making fun of me because I'd be standing up and jumping around. I'd be like, I always like to, I'm kind of a bit of a, nothing published professionally, but I do like writing, creative writing. Fiction is like kind of my jam. So especially when I was a kid, I would like come up with stories and like make like original Star Wars characters like alongside of the movie, and I would pretend like I had my character doing his own thing, and then come together like the the battle in episode 2 on
Yeah.
Geonosis where they're all like doing the Star Wars battle. Like I would imagine my character coming in with like all the other Jedis and like doing the fights at the end with like the background and stuff. So like yeah, stuff like that was really my earliest memories. That's probably somewhere between like anywhere between 8 to like 15, something like that. So
Those are fun ones. I like that engagement too. That's the thing is, I feel like we haven't really, actually a lot of people haven't really talked about how, like, obviously they've talked about remembering watching a movie or like going to like the video store or whatever, but that whole element of play, I feel like is a huge impact on like that pretend element too, because like you brought up Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Like Lord of the Rings for me, like I pretended along with my friends that we were characters within like the thing. And I also even remember, this is a dangerous thing, I don't think I've even mentioned it. The only weapon I've really ever owned is a bow and arrow.
yeah.
I was like 12 or whatever when I got it. And I would only go into the backyard, but I would pretend I would pretend that I was at Helm's Deep and I was like Legolas or something, and I would just be shooting at that target like orcs or Urukai, and that was the coolest thing ever.
Oh yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I
So I don't know. It's that element is cool. So wish people would talk more about like how did you interact with this? Did you dress up?
Yeah,
Pretend? Like,
absolutely. I have like a lightsaber. I have like a lightsaber on a handle over there that like lights up and stuff. And I had that for a long time. And sometimes I would use that, but it's like a fancy metal one, so I didn't want it to break. So I kind of kept it polished for the most part. But sometimes I would get it out and I'd be like, vroom, like all that shit. So,
we get the nicer toys now, so we don't want to break them. So
yeah, that's the tragedy, but also still really cool. So
yeah. So what was that next step when you were in your adolescent, like teenage years, and to where you're at now? How did that go up?
Okay, so I was, a really stupid kid, and I had a lot of like, are we allowed to curse? Can I curse on here?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a lot of really shitty opinions, and one of those opinions was, I don't know. It's a weird thing as a kid where like, it's very easy to get like a black and white mindset of something. Like it's this, and if it's not this, it's shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so my experience was like that. I got into anime really early on, and anime was like everything. I thought it was the best thing. I was like, if your work is not Japanese cute anime girls, it's shit. Your content sucks. It's not there. Like movies cannot do what anime can do. Okay. And I was like that for a really long time until probably my first like actual like romantic relationship that I got into when I was in high school. I was like a sophomore in high school, and I got into my first real relationship, and she was like, "Hey babe, you want to like watch your movies or something?" And I was like, "Movies?" I was like, I don't know, but because like, I had my early move with memories with film, and I love those memories still, but it was like a lot. It was like, I just like felt like I had grown out of it, or like wasn't really that into it. But I was like, yeah, sure, babe. I'll do whatever you want, whatever. Let's watch some movies. And she showed me like Kill Bill, this movie called Pontypool, which is like a really weird zombie movie that was like so good. She just started showing me all these like weird movies, but not. I mean, Kill Bill is pretty mainstream, right? But for me at the time, that was like a weird movie that was like, oh wow, I didn't know that this existed. That's crazy. And she really got me into like movies as a hobby. And even after we broke up, like I just really wanted to keep exploring film, keep getting deeper, and then like alongside with anime, film just became something that I really wanted to get invested in. I realized, okay, you can tell compelling stories here. It's not just all about Japanese people way far away. It's like even people here can make good shit. And yeah.
Well, I mean that's the thing is like I feel like those people, like it has to be some kind of catalyst, right? To like, and that is interesting, that a relationship is really like kind of the catalyst that kind of woke you up back to like, oh, there's something more to this medium than what you were exposing yourself to, previously. And I think that's actually pretty cool that we have people in our lives that can still do this, even if they're in and out or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's still, I mean, it's still great that way. So what about like,
Absolutely.
what about like currently, like how did you get further into like, I mean, like the YouTube world? Like how did you like find me and watch other people's content, and like where did this come from?
How that's like so that's a really good question, but honestly, like that's probably more an aspect of it that I haven't really thought about too much. I think really what it was I guess it really started with my interest in physical media collecting because back then, I was really into anime. I still am, but was more so, even more so back then. And I watched a guy named Glass Reflections Arcada. He just does a lot of general anime content reviewing, but even though he didn't talk about it that much, he always kind of like you and other people had like this big shelf behind him of like things. And he was always like preaching the gospel about how like don't pirate anime 'cause, pirating anime is a really big issue. It's like one of the
Yeah.
biggest things, and it's like don't pirate, make sure you buy what you love and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And so that kind of mindset from a young age kind of seeped into me, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I want to do that. And that's when I started collecting, which started collecting with anime. And then as far as finding other content creators, when I was in that phase, I had a really big phase of just watching like Blu-ray collection videos
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like not just like hauls, but like people that
yeah.
just
The
did
whole
like their whole
collection.
collection, like
Yeah,
hour long videos,
I
stuff like
remember those
that.
very well. I
Yeah,
still do them
I
every
was
year. So
yeah, I was really into those, just seeing what people I got a lot of like pretty good recommendations from those. And like the Chris Stuckman one where he would like the where he's like sit down with like a movie and he would like give like an experience or just talk about it for a bit, and then like or like the Your Movie Sucks, he did like a 7-hour live stream or something of his whole
geez.
collection. And obviously you don't watch those in one sitting, but it's almost like a podcast, like, and you can just listen to it in the background or whatever, come back to it, whatever. And I think that is how I found most physical media YouTubers that like I actively watch to this day, including yourself, just through the Blu-ray, the big Blu-ray collection videos, and then eventually getting recommended like other stuff from you that I watched in my feed. And I was like, oh, okay, this guy actually, this Nathan Jones guy has got a lot of interesting stuff to say. I kind of like it. I'll hit subscribe. And that's kind of how it is for me to where I am now, loving the community. Though I guess I haven't really like, I don't know. Maybe I just haven't looked in the right places, or maybe they just don't exist. But like usually when I try to get into communities, I like trying to find like Discord servers or things like that where I can go in and like actually talk to people. But like I haven't actually really found anything like that for this. Maybe I don't know if that's like because there is and I haven't found it, or if it just doesn't exist. But yeah, I've been kind of craving actually talking to people that have physical media, and I guess this in a way has been like a big substitute for that, because like, oh well, I don't know people that can talk to about these hobbies, but I can listen to other people talk about it, and in a way that's kind of like stimulating like a conversation in my mind that I
Yeah.
don't really actually get to have with people that often. So
And that's a good thing, but like also you're kind of like you were saying, that engagement thing, that's probably where obviously this is going up on YouTube, but
yeah.
that is kind of one of the weird things about YouTube, is that you really don't get that engagement that like that other social media, maybe like a Discord or something, you would get a little bit better at, with like how you're interacting with people who are doing something, or like everyone in a group together. I mean, obviously there's groups on a lot of other social media apps, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of us also have like Instagram and Twitter and things like that, and so you can engage there. But yeah, you're right, it is interesting being on like a platform that is pretty much like, I'll record something and then then I'll see people in the comment sections, I'll get to it later. But also it's weird, it's a good positive thing too. At least I don't think I've mentioned this really on the channel at all, but like obviously everyone's got their own stuff going on, right?
Mhm.
and sometimes you just don't have time to constantly engage with things, and so sometimes it's just really nice to have something scheduled, do something, and then like you'll get back to it later. So I don't know, it's hard to navigate what those channels look like, but I'm super happy that you brought that up, because that is something that I wish that would improve a little bit more on YouTube in some kind of weird way.
That's I that's kind of what I like about the that's what I really loved about the weekly question series that you've been doing, because I feel like that is a really interesting way that I haven't seen many people do, of like trying to create that engagement and like that conversation with like the video. Or I haven't really seen people comment on other people's comments, and that discussion is still a little bit missing. But like, it is really cool to like get that interaction with you, even if it's just like a comment like, hey, cool choice, like even if it's something like simple like that. I don't know, I really respond positively to that, like that kind of just engagement and like conversation. So I really appreciate that you do that, because I feel like that is kind of, again, another thing that's kind of like filling in that conversation, because I usually don't get to have that kind of conversation with people, because I don't have people that like collect thousands or hundreds of movies or whatever.
You don't know everyone in your real life that does that.
No one and that I know around me does that. I've gotten one person into collecting a little bit, but even he isn't like as crazy as I am when it
Right.
comes to collecting. So like, and all of us obviously. So
yeah, I do like that particular element about with my channel. I try my best to engage as best as I can. Obviously, with how the world is, it's getting harder and harder for me to like keep up with it, but I try my best, and I like seeing those comments. And I mean, that's the reason like why we're talking today is
yeah, exactly. So I appreciate it. I feel like, and obviously like bigger content creators, like they like a lot. Like I understand why content creators can't necessarily do it, but I appreciate that you do it. I like, yeah. So
yeah.
I don't want that to be like a diss on like other creators. Like, oh,
Not at all.
I don't get to talk to other people on Alex. Obviously that's just not practical for a lot of people, or whatever reason it is. But like, yeah,
time is a big commodity, and the older you get, like you realize how much you want your time to be as best suited for yourself as possible, which is weird. But anyway,
exactly.
I will continue on with the engagement as much as I can. But let's pivot here a little bit to some of your favorite films. What are some of the things that you've grown up with, maybe, and also maybe have favorite films now? What are some of those?
Sure. Okay. So one of my favorite films of all time, like there's usually five that like when people just ask me as the general question, what are your favorite films, that I usually go to. And it's American Psycho, amazing film, Christian Bale, one of my favorite actors, and I love so much about it. It's so funny, so dark, so interesting. And I think a lot of people give it a bad rep because, well, I mean, a lot of people love it, but there's also like a lot of people that I think, like sometimes I've talked to people about American Psycho and I'm like, yeah, American Psycho is one of my favorite movies. And they give me a weird look. They're kind of like, you okay? And I'm like, guys, listen, it's not as weird as you think. Like, it's not like this I don't know. I feel like there's this weird culture that's developed around it where it's like the dude bro kind of like
I know
sexist.
exactly.
Like,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, like the literal version of Patrick Bateman is like an aspiration. I'm like, no, guys,
I'm
no,
like, you don't understand the message of the movie, I don't think.
yeah, like I don't want to be that guy, but like, listen, this movie is literally directed by a female. Like, I swear to God, the female gaze is in this movie. Like, don't like, don't like. I don't know. It's hard to defend that movie sometimes because some people just like don't get it, that it's like satire. But yeah, I don't know. I love it.
100%.
It was the first movie that made me realize that like, wow, holy crap, movies can actually like make you think. I was like, what? Like, not that you couldn't think from like Lord of the Rings or like things that I saw in my past, but I don't know. I just didn't really connect with that on the same level as like that. And that was like one of the first things. And then there's like Place Beyond the Pines. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah, I've seen that probably like 12 times. it's just the way it was told, like the generational conflict. I don't know. That was just really cool. I've never really seen movies do things like that in a way that was as interesting. So that was cool. And then Monty Python, I know that's something you like, and the Holy Grail specifically. It's one of the funny. Yeah. So
Yeah, that
yeah, the all of that is like we quote that movie like in my in-person friend group like all the time. That's like one of the main movies we reference. It's
I,
so much fun
I
and
quote it
so
once a week at least.
yeah, you got to, right? Like if you laugh, if you enjoy life, you have a good time, you quote Monty Python, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that and then her um I just relate to that on like a deep like personal level. Like obviously not I've never wanted to fuck a robot, but like but not in the literal sense, but in the sense that like and they even that on the Blu-ray there's like a little featurette where they kind of talk about the type of love they're trying to express. And I personally have quite a lot of experience with like long distance relationships, so I felt like her was in a lot of ways very reflective of the struggles that come with that. So that's always just hit me on like a personal deep level more than like I think almost more than any film ever has really. So like that was like cool. And yeah, newer as far as like newer things go, I actually have had like a couple things that I really liked recently. Have you ever heard of Love Exposure?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's like, oh my gosh. If you're a fan of anime, it's a movie that you absolutely love. It's like this 4-hour Japanese epic about a guy who takes snapshots of women's panties and like trying to like using that to like try to find his one true love. And he's also like a devout Christian. It's it's so hard to explain in words fully. That might just sound really weird, but I watched it and I just first of all I was surprised I could sit through a 4-hour movie. I didn't know it was 4 hours when I bought it, but I got it. I saw it was 4 hours. I was like, shit, what did I what did I get myself into? But then I watched it and I was like, holy crap, it's over already. Like what the heck? My mind was so blown. I was like, holy crap. I just knew I had to add it to my favorites right away. My top 50. I was like, okay, this is it. And that and I'm sorry to bother you.
It's a
Um
good one.
that's one that is like very recently. That and Everything Everywhere. Like we mentioned before, I had seen it 9 times. I'm kind of obsessed with that movie, and that movie has kind of made me realize how much I'm into like absurdist filmmaking because I'm sorry to bother you and Love Exposure are like very, very absurd. And then it just made me reflect on like films that I've already liked for a long time that are really absurd that I didn't realize that that was like the aspect that I liked about it, like Being John Malkovich and
Hmm. Yeah.
what's another one, the even The Big Lebowski I would say is pretty absurdist to
Oh
like
yeah.
some degree, and like that those are like some of my favorite films as well. So I've kind of been starting to connect. I like doing that. I like think when I think about my favorite films, I like trying to connect them and like what is it, like what is the theme here. Like if I showed someone my top 50 list, like what would they be able to take away from that? Like whoa, I don't know, I like doing that kind of thing, so I try to link it. And yeah, I think absurdism is like a really big thing that I'm into, but absurdism with a point. It's
Sure.
like sometimes like I just don't get movies. Sometimes I'm too dumb to understand movies. Like I don't know, there's one this is a little bit of a tangent, I'm sorry, but Kiji Yoshida, the Love and Anarchy trilogy on Arrow Video. I don't know if you know
I
that,
haven't seen them,
but
but I know of it. Yeah.
a lot of people love it. I don't. I'm too stupid for it. I watched it and every second felt like an hour. I didn't understand what was going on. I don't even necessarily think it was absurdist, but like it was very weird. Like nothing about it made sense. I couldn't even tell what was going on half the time. I was just a big dumb forehead for when it comes to that. So like sometimes it's too much and I just can't get it. But like if I can get it, I'm like, this is my next best thing. So
I mean, that's the thing. That's the beauty of it all, though, is I feel like there's movies out there for everyone, and even if it's something that's like everyone else might be like, yeah, this is something I really enjoy. It's like at least you got your stuff. Like, you know, you mentioned something like Place Beyond the Place Beyond the Pines.
Yeah,
I mean, I really like that movie, but I haven't heard anyone really talk about that movie in quite some time, honestly.
yeah,
So it's stuff like that that it's like, oh, that's really cool. That like I think I don't remember who said it. I think it was actually Master Chaos who said it, but he said something like every movie is someone's favorite movie. And so, or like hopefully, or you know, maybe not every movie, but
yeah.
something along those, that sentiment is still a thing that it should be, you know, thought about. So it's good. So I like that. I like those choices. We'll definitely have to check out some of them. So um,
Absolutely.
what about some of your favorite directors? Do you have any directors that you kind of follow a little bit?
Yeah, this was like a question that I was actually obviously I've seen a lot of film journeys, so some of these I've been cheated a little bit. I've had a lot of time to think about. But for directors, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I usually don't watch films from the director. Like the director isn't usually what grabs me. It's usually more the actors that grab me than
You want to
the
pivot to
director.
that then? What's
Well, I guess I could just real quickly, like just a couple that I do, but they're kind of like some of the stereotypical answers. Like I love Tarantino, obviously. Tarantino, all of his films are my favorite. I think we actually have something in common that isn't a very shared opinion, which is why I was like, oh, didn't you say something like The Hateful Eight is like your favorite? The
yeah.
Hateful Eight's also my favorite.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
So many people that I talked to are like, "What? Do you think that's your favorite Tarantino? That's trash." And I'm like,
Because
"What? Like how?"
I'm an old man. That's why. I'm an old man, and I like staying put in, I don't know, one place, and I like it. So
I don't know. Like I get that, but like I feel like it's the fact that it could do so much with so little space is just makes it that much more impressive. Like to me, I feel like as far as his because of the fact that it's in one place, like all of his dialogue and stuff has to be that much more fine tuned and all that jazz to make it interesting. And I was trying to explain it to a friend. I was like, I feel like everything Tarantino does well, I feel like it's done at some of his best levels in The Hateful Eight for me personally. So it's like people say it's like, oh, it's a trash, boring movie. I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Like, what are you talking
yeah,
about?
right, yeah.
This movie is amazing. So yeah, Tarantino. When my obsession with the Daniels for Everything Everywhere, I went back and saw their other two movies, Swiss Army Man, which oh my god, I love Swiss Army Man, and then
Got some absurdist stuff going on again.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know which one of them did it, but only one of them directed this one, but I still watched it anyway. It's called The Death of Dick Long. It's like an A24 film as well. It's really interesting. It's their most grounded movie by a significant mile, but even then, it still has like it's a murder. I guess it's you could say it's like a murder mystery or like a mystery around a death. And the I the actual like cause is pretty absurd, but in a way that's much more realistic than like a
Sure.
farting sentient corpse and crazy multiverse shenanigans. So
Right.
so them I've loved that, and I'm definitely going to be following their work for a long time. And Robert Eggers,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it, Eggers. Been loving his stuff too, and even though he's the is that The Witch?
That's The Witch. Yeah.
Yeah, I kick myself in the foot because I'm like I don't really like double dipping either because it's like I already got the $5 Blu-ray, but I've seen everyone unbox that, and I'm like, oh man, The
Yeah.
Witch is like I really don't like horror that much, with the exception of like psychological and zombies. I
Mm.
love zombies, even though some people might not consider it horror. I love zombies. So yeah, The Witch is like one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh man,
As you
I
can
want
probably already know.
yeah, I want that fancy box so bad. It just but yeah, no. I'm sticking with the $5 Blu-ray for now. And
That's totally fair. It's a lot. It's a big commitment. So
yeah, but yeah, so that stuff was really cool. And I didn't like The Lighthouse that much. That was one of those ones that for me is like a little too weird for me to like it's like right on the line of like me enjoying it and feeling like it might be a little too artsy for me to fully
Sure.
appreciate.
Yeah.
But then the Northman came out, and the Northman, I was like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I like this. I like where this is going. So now I'm like 2 for 1. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be following the career now and see where I'm going. So like, there are exceptions like that. And I guess as far for like the boutique crowd and like older audiences, like Akira Kurosawa, that's a pretty basic one. But like, I
Just
love
reason he's up. Yeah, the reason people talk about it.
everything. Yeah, everything I've seen from Akira Kurosawa, I've loved except for Kagemusha. But I liked like half of Kagemusha. I don't know if you've seen that, but
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
I liked the first half of it, and then like as soon as his whole like gig was up, like I thought that whole gig of like him impersonating the emperor and dealing with that was all really interesting. And then like as soon as he got caught and like that ended, I got like really bored and I felt like it was like a Kurosawa doing his like usual stick, and I was like, okay, I've seen this movie like 5 times at least, so
Right.
like, yeah. Um,
So what about I mean maybe any of those actors in those movies that you like to follow or even outside of
uh,
actors and actors?
I I don't think so. I mentioned earlier that Christian Bale is like a favorite actor of mine. Um, I pretty much try to buy all the movies that have him in it and watch them. Though admittedly, I haven't actually like loved necessarily all of his movies, but like the movies from him that I do love, I think are like really good. Like I mentioned American Psycho, but I know you've been talking about Interstellar a little bit recently. My favorite Christopher Nolan film personally is The Prestige. I
Great, great movie.
love The Prestige, and Christian Bale is such a big part of that for me. What he's able to do with the two faces. Sorry if you haven't seen it. Spoiler alert. These like plays two different identities. Fallon and I think that was like the separate guy. I don't remember what the name of the main one is, funnily enough, but uh, yeah, that was just so cool for me. And I rewatched it like 2 or 3 times now. I even did an essay on it in college, a film essay on it, and I just all the neurons go off when I think of that movie. So like that's pretty cool. I like Jake Gyllenhaal a lot. I know that's like, oh wow, Jake Gyllenhaal, but like that
The
is
fans
he's great for a reason, right? Yeah, like it's like Jake Gyllenhaal is one where like more consistently I've loved all of his movies. Like I feel like he has always knows how to put himself on projects that are just really cool. Like even his most recent thing that people might want to shrug off, like Ambulance, is just like, it's a Michael Bay thing. Like I watched Ambulance because of because of Jake Gyllenhaal,
right.
and I was kind of going in with like, oh, maybe this will be a fun action movie. And it kind of is, but like it was really cool. And Jake Gyllenhaal brought a lot to his character actually for what it was, and I was surprised, like actually kind of caring about the characters beyond like their action. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. And I love Leo as well. Um, all of his stuff, like Wolf of Wall Street, I think is my favorite movie that he was in. Um, just all that energy is like, I know people are kind of like tend to be iffy on like his whole like yelling stick, like just yelling, being a guy that yells really loud, but like I don't know. I think the Wolf of Wall Street is like the best of him doing his like stereotypical stick of like him, like, oh, being the loud guy that yells a lot or does this or that. Like all of his like Leo-isms. I love it. So that and Michelle Yeoh too, to some female Michelle Yeoh, obviously Everything Everywhere and All at Once, but like I've been getting into some of her past works, like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon
Oh
as
man,
well. I
fantastic.
loved that, and I loved her role in that. And Amy Adams as well. I feel like a lot of people, at least that I've talked to, kind of sleep on Amy Adams, but like I don't know. I loved her in The Master. I love her in
Right.
Arrival. Arrival is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of the few movies that I watched again immediately after finishing it. I've only done that with like 3 movies like in my entire life, so that's a pretty big deal for me when I can say that I've done that with a movie. So that's was great. Nocturnal Animals is another one of my favorites. She
Movie.
just killed it with
And
that.
Jake Gyllenhaal as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And even American Hustle, which is like people are like mixed on that movie, but like I love American Hustle, and I think she brings her great performance to her supporting role. So yeah, just stuff like that. And I guess that's about it as far as actors. Those are like the main ones. I know those are all kind of like mainstream, I guess, but like I don't know. I really like them. So
Well, I mean,
it's just what it is.
there's good. I mean, those are good choices too. I mean, some of them you don't really hear much about, like you were saying, like Amy Adams. Lucky, yeah, everyone knows who
Yeah,
it is, but not ever. I don't hear everyone talk about her.
like appreciate. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
exactly.
like
Yeah,
yeah, she's very underrated in my opinion. People need
yeah,
to start respecting her name a bit more.
yeah. Well, I mean, she's going to continue to do great work, and she's already done enough great work. So, I mean, that's already solidified enough. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
um, now here's the tricky part, which I'm sure since you've seen some of these YouTube videos,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know a little bit where this is going. But if you could be in one of those directors that you brought up earlier, film, who would you choose to be?
Okay.
And what would you do? Would you be like in the background, or like would you like want to be a main character, just an extra?
Okay, so I think it would be at this current moment, I think it'd be pretty easily the Daniels. I've watched interviews and I've read a lot of things about like what what like being on set with them is like and the type of rituals and stuff that they have, and it just seems like that would just be like regardless. Obviously I'd want to be a main character because I mean come on, like I don't know, I mean I guess some people would be fine being background, but like if I was in something I'd want to be a big, I mean come on, yeah, I'd want to be a big role, so I'd want to be a main character. But even if I wasn't a main character, like they just seem to bring such like energy and like good vibes to set, and they always have like the things to do and like the know-how to like get people really involved and like invested and just have a good time and like appreciate the work people do. So I would really think their environment would be a good place for me. And as far as the actual content goes, I mean, Jesus, I can only imagine what it's like being handed a Daniel script and just being like, "You're gonna be a part of this," and I'm just like,
What is this?
"What?" Like,
How is this going to be made?
yeah, but I get you know, it just makes you want to give it your all that much more, and just seeing how like I don't know, being in one of their worlds just sounds like the most amazing thing ever. You'd just be constantly in a state of like being confused, but having fun, but also crying or sad or like all their emotions just work for me, and their sense of humor is like very much up my alley. So like yeah, I would be over the moon happy to be on a Daniel's set, Daniel's script, directed, all of it.
I like that you brought up that emotional side because I feel like, especially, I mean, people talk about it a lot, maybe ad nauseum a little bit, but the fact that well, I mean, it's because it's that good. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
but just the amount of emotional roller coaster you see with everything everywhere. I mean, like you literally go through every state of like almost like grief. You're like,
Oh yeah.
you go all the way up and down, and
Oh yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, it's great. It'd be a lot of fun to be a part of something like that. So I like that choice. So
Thank you.
now, the trickier question though is if you had to like think about your own life and where you're at currently, what would you if you had your movie as like or sorry, if you had your life as like a movie, what title would you give it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is probably my biggest cheat one because yeah, I've had a lot of time to think about this actually because I've heard it a bunch of times. Um, I I think what I would go with is I would call my movie Dog Days, semicolon, the pursuit of sex, love, and happiness. And like the reason why I feel like that this is more something to like people that know me on like a personal level, but dogs are kind of I mean, I've had a dog for a long time. I've been compared sometimes to different types of dogs, and I had like I like dogs have just been a big part of my life in ways that it's hard to explain, but if you know, you know, kind of a thing. So I'm going to be showing my friends this this video for sure. So, um, I just think I'd be able to do like a lot of different metaphors for that, and really like get that in there, all the juicy artsy shit, you know, and for like the pursuit of sex, love, and happiness. I feel like that's just what a lot of my life has been, and I feel like that'd be a very literal, direct, but kind of interesting way to describe it and describe the ups and downs of that, the goods and bads of that, all of that. Like I just yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be a great way to describe it. I was almost thinking of doing like borrowing a name, like doing like Dog Day Afternoon or something, but like I haven't even seen that movie, so like I don't
Good.
even know.
Good.
I don't I don't even know what the title in that case is like referencing to necessarily. So I just decided, but I knew I wanted to have like dog be a part of it. So I was like, how about Dog Day instead? Dog days of my life as a dog or whatever. So yeah, that I hope that like made sense kind of. I was thinking about how much I wanted to say or not say. I
Hmm.
don't know, but did that make sense?
Yeah, to an
I don't
extent,
know.
to an extent, yeah. But
That's a
I
bit
mean,
of a like
that's
muddly.
that's the thing, though. Like, everyone's got their own, title, right? And that's
Yeah,
so everyone's got their own story, and whatever that is, like, that's the fun part of that question. So that's
exactly.
what I
I
try
would
to.
have a lot of fun directing it if I got a chance to direct it. I think there'd be a lot of shit. I mean, I don't want to like juice myself up or anything, but like, I feel like I'd be able to I
Have
think
fun.
I have an interesting story to tell.
Have
I mean,
fun.
I guess everyone does, right? But yeah.
Right. So as we're kind of coming together with this whole thing, thinking about your journey so far and where you've been, how has this medium, or just this community, or any of this kind of stuff that you've been engaging with, how's this like kind of changed your worldview or your outlook on life?
Um, I think empathy is a big part of it. I think that because with the great medium that is movies and storytelling, you get to experience so many different perspectives, so many different ways of life, and consider so many things for better or worse that you just never would have had to consider or be forced to face with if you were just, doing your own thing, stuck in your loop or whatever it is. And I think that for me has been like a really important part, especially with the physical media side of things, just because buying those discs and everything has just put me somewhere where I can just experience so much more film from different perspectives than I would if I was on just, on streaming and just going to the theater where they don't play as much anymore and like this or that. Like I feel like it really has like broadened my horizon a lot, and especially with like some of the boutiques or just like foreign movies in general, that's also really, I feel like my horizon's been expanded. And obviously that, uh, you can never really get like the full picture of like someone's culture, way of life or something just by watching one movie, obviously. But like but that's like, I feel like I know more about a place or know more about something, like if I see a film about it or films about it in whatever way that comes, or if I see like multiple films like Korean films and they kind of seem to have like a similar thing going on, then I'm kind of like, okay, that's really cool. And sadly I haven't been able to do much on the community side, so like I don't know, I'd like to get more involved in the community if there was any way to do that, but yeah, for the most part it's just been empathy and really starting, yeah, just empathy, seeing things from other people's side. I think it's really gotten me better at that.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a common through line with a lot of us, is that I feel like that's a lot of why we do this thing we do and why we engage with it that way. And I like hearing that every time, even if it is something that, like, is talked about in a different way. I think it's still like a very positive thing. And honestly, I kind of wish more. I mean, everyone's different personality type wise, but like,
Yeah.
I wish more and more people would understand issues maybe even if it is like Hollywoodized or whatever, or glamorized or even like fictionalized, it's
Mhm.
still tackling something that you might not ever understand, but you could watch something that would get you close to it, and you're like, I can kind of understand why this is a thing. Just again, also maybe an experience for somebody. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it makes it like, in personal life, it kind of helps too when you're like, just when people are telling you things. I don't know. I feel like like if you can like listen to someone's story in like a movie and like internalize that and like kind of understand where they're coming from. I feel like that also helps. At least for me, it's kind of like helped my skills in general with like empathizing with people if they just like come to me for something
Mhm.
or whatever. I feel like it's helped me like understand them better too, or just know how to go about like just trying to like step into their shoes too, kind of thing. And I feel like that's what movies are really good at. So through that, I kind of feel like I get better at that as well.
Yeah, that's what that I mean. That this medium is great for that, and that's why I hopefully that's why a lot of us love it. So as we wrap this up, do you have any final thoughts on anything?
Not particularly, just that it's been a great time. I've loved having this conversation. I love you letting me talk so much. Just getting to be on here and have a good time. I've really enjoyed every second of it, and I appreciate you so much for letting me on. And that's really all. That's about it.
Well, I'm happy to have talked with you as well, and I mean that's why we mentioned it in the video itself. Just this engagement level, even if it doesn't have to be somebody who's making content as well, but if it's people just who are watching this and just spending time with us, and that's the cool thing. And it's that unseen thing that you don't really you don't know how to engage with it. So that's why I like doing this. And so I appreciate you coming on and reaching out actually. So
Thank you for letting me be the first fan. I guess I'm like the first person that's on a content. Am I the
there's
first
been a
person that's
couple.
on a
There's been
content
a
creator?
couple. There's been a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, I did this. I think maybe about 10 or 15 film journeys ago. I had a few people who didn't make videos or anything. They just,
Okay.
but it's still one of the few. So I mean
Yeah.
it's cool. That's the thing.
Absolutely, and thank you so much again. I know I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, but I really
No,
just appreciate the opportunity. I can't
yeah.
express it enough. It's
Well,
been
no
so cool.
problem. Well, I hope that this rings true for people who are watching this right now. Who I'm talking to you right in the moment. I hope everyone has enjoyed this conversation, and also like this invite's extended to you as well. If you ever feel like you want to engage with me or the community at a larger whole, obviously there's a lot of avenues for that, but down in the description is Instagram and Twitter for me. I'll also be. You want any links for yourself, or are you just good with this?
I guess if you want, I could put my can put my letterbox down. I'll link to
Yeah,
that. I don't really do much like reviews or anything, but I do lists. I like doing lists. Lists are fun. So I don't know
yeah,
if you're interested in my taste for some reason, if I've captivated you as a personality and you like to know my taste, then I guess I could just link my letterbox.
yeah.
Or if you're into my physical media collection, I do posts of that on my Reddit. So I guess I could also link that too, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
that's
you'll send them to me. I'll send them right there. So
yep.
thanks again, Parker, for joining. I had a lot of fun. So everyone who's watching right now, like I said, I hope you enjoy the conversation as well. I hope that we can see you and engage with you down in the comment section down below. This has been a real fun treat. I hope everyone is enjoying it. Can comment down below, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'm not jonesing around.